Last week, Euronews broadcast my documentary on the life of Albanians in Brussels. I went to Brussels, I interviewed a number of migrants who've called the country home for decades, as well as visiting an Albanian cultural centre and an Albanian restaurant. Now, I was delighted to get a message from Egbert Leichert, a Belgian Member of Parliament and a member of the Open VLD, who enjoyed the show, both due to his family links to Albania and the fact he's president of the friendship group between Belgian Parliament on one side and the Albanian Parliament and Macedonian Parliament on the other. So I decided to invite him to Inside Albania. Good afternoon, Egbert.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, Alice.
Thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure, and it was really great to have that message from you and that we were able to connect in this way.
Well, as you said, I am at this moment the president of the friendship group between Belgian Parliament and Albanian Parliament and North Macedonian Parliament. So I follow a bit the news in the country as well, what is happening. I must say sometimes in Belgium and in Western Europe, there's a lack of attention for what's happening in the Western Balkans. And I think the region will play an important role the coming years because we have the accession talks with the EU. So I think sometimes there's a lack of attention, but I try to be informed as well as I can about what's happening in the region.
Great. Now, the first thing I want to ask you about, as I discovered on my trip, there is a huge Albanian population, both Kosovo Albanian and Albanian, in Brussels and in Belgium as a whole. And I wanted to ask you, what is your perception, your visibility of the Albanian community? One thing I was surprised about as well is how long some people have been there. You know, they're not necessarily recent migrants. So how have people integrated? What have your interactions been with the Albanian community?
Well, let's say most of Albanians here, and there is a larger community than Belgians think, because it is a community that is not always so prominent in the streets, but they are very well present. And of course, with my family link, I know some Albanians, so sometimes you hear the language around Brussels and in numerous other cities. I think most of Albanians here keep a low profile, but they often work like in sectors like construction or technical services. Of course, we know 20 years ago when the first migrants came here, of course, there's some prejudice about the first generation that came because often you have cases, court cases as well about yes, people with not so good intentions also that are active in the country, which is too bad for the image, because I know a lot of Albanians and most of them just do their best here to integrate, live here very well and are respected members of our Belgian community. So we are happy they are here.
In fact, you were talking about them being so well integrated. On my first visit to Brussels, I found a coffee shop and I sat down, I ordered a coffee. It was an Italian coffee shop. And when I opened my wallet to pay and I had some lek in there, and the guy was like, "Oh, where did you get that?" And I was like, "Well, I live in Albania, you know," and it turned out he wasn't actually Italian, he was Albanian, but it was sort of promoting the restaurant, the cafe as Italian. Is this something that happens a lot, do you think?
Yes, it happens a lot if you know the language or you know how to recognize an Albanian. You see them more than you would think. So, and it's true what you said. There are a lot of Italian restaurants or even cafes that in fact are owned by Albanians. But also we are here in Parliament Buildings, center of Brussels. The restaurant you visited, Alba, is just around the corner here. But the other bar where most members of Parliament on Thursday evening go out for a drink after work is also owned by an Albanian. He comes from Sturga, North Macedonia, but he is from origin Albanian. So actually, if you know, you notice it everywhere.
You are president currently of the friendship group between the Belgian and the Albanian Parliament and the North Macedonian as well. What does this friendship group entail? What's your role as president? What's the purpose? Tell us more about it.
Well, these friendship groups exist between almost all parliaments in the world. Actually, the way you fulfill this presidency depends a bit on the person. Sometimes there are missions, official missions that are organized from one country to the other. Then you visit the parliament of the other country. And often there are discussions about numerous themes like economic issues, diplomatic issues. That is mostly what it is used for. Now, during the term that I have been president, it's now 4 years, We have not had an official mission, but with a team of colleagues among the president of our Senate and other members of parliament, I informally visited the parliament of Albania 2 years ago. And I must say also the contact with both ambassadors, the Albanian, Suela Yanina, and North Macedonia in Brussels is very good. We have a very good link. And when there are issues concerning Albanians or that are important for the country, it is also a way to have an informal diplomacy and to put themes on the agenda that are important for both countries.
And I want to tackle something that you briefly mentioned earlier, and that is the reality of issues with organised crime involving Albanians, drug trafficking. This is something we can't avoid. It's something the press do pounce on, I must say, but it is an issue now. And I want to understand, what's the reality in Belgium with this? I mean, I know, you know, that the majority of Albanians everywhere in the world are regular members of society, but there are some issues that prevail. How can we combat these issues? What's the situation in Belgium? And can your friendship group play a role in this as well?
Well, it's indeed a concern because, of course, 99% of the people are, of course, good people with good intentions. But in every society, you always have others who cross lines. And unfortunately, Belgium is a bit vulnerable on this issue of drugs mafia because we have the port of Antwerp in our country. And the port of Antwerp is unfortunately often used for drugs trafficking. Recently, our Belgian justice, but with the collaboration of the Albanian justice, I should point that out, that there is a good collaboration. There were several gangs or mafia clans that were actually investigated through transcriptions of WhatsApp messages that were de-encrypted by government in an investigation. And it led to a huge investigation, and there were some Albanian groups discovered. Recently, we also made a treaty with Dubai to have somebody with Albanian nationality who was running a drug mafia empire from there, but was concerning Belgian society. He is now in Belgian prison. We were able to make an extraditory treaty with Dubai to get him here. So unfortunately for the reputation, of course, people in Belgium read this in the news. They see an Albanian national again in front of court. It's not something, it's too bad because I know so many Albanians here in Brussels and in Belgium in general. They simply work, they do their best, they are good citizens. And of course, for them, it leads to some prejudice. Of course, once you get to know the people, it's better. And also, I must say what helps a lot too, Albania is now being discovered as a real tourist destination. As people know, I have a link with the country. I get a mass of questions about which route people should take to visit Albania. It started last year. And this year it will go even higher because everybody that went is positive on the country. So I think that could change things really a lot.
You know, it happened with my colleagues in Belgium when I first started working there with colleagues in Belgium about 3 years ago. And they were like, oh, you're in Albania. And it was sort of, strange choice. Now, last summer, I had colleagues calling me, oh, I'm going backpacking, or we've just booked our honeymoon in Albania, or which hotel can I stay in? So things really, really changed from sort of, oh, Albania to where's the best place to go? Can you put me in contact with someone who can take me on a tour? So this was nice to see people's opinions and perceptions changing. Now, I want to move on to Belgium. Belgium has just assumed the presidency of the European Council. Congratulations on that. How can this impact EU's accession path? Can it impact? Will it impact? What can we achieve in terms of accession in the next 6 months? Is there anything?
Well, for us, this is really an important event. We also have a Prime Minister, Alexander De Croo. He's from my party, a colleague of mine. And Alexander De Croo is somebody with an international profile, with an authority. So actually, the fact that he will be the president of the council at this point is a good thing, I think, because he has a lot of credibility with his colleagues. And there are a lot of themes on the agenda that are fundamental for the stability and peace in Europe. First of all, of course, the war in Ukraine and the support package we should give to Ukrainians to resist the Russians trying to occupy the country. I think it will be important for us to make sure that there is a consensus that we keep on supporting Ukraine against Russia. Second, there is the Gaza-Israel conflict, where Europeans are very divided on how they want to put their or which point of view they should take. And I think third, that is important for you and for everybody watching, the enlargement of the EU will be on the agenda as well, and the road to the accession. And I think that will be really something to debate, because often I see that the Western Balkans are considered as a package, a group of countries, 6 countries, to be debated together. I think actually that is a big risk for Albania or for North Macedonia, because these countries are a lot more ahead in reforms they have done. And of course, we don't know. We see the tensions in Serbia. We see what's happening at the Kosovo-Serbian border. I hope this all doesn't interfere with a clear accession path for countries that have done reforms. So these are important issues on the agenda the coming months.
And actually, I was going to ask you about that. I interviewed the Deputy Prime Minister of Kosovo, Besnik Beslimi, just before Christmas, and he said, under Spain, nothing really happened with our EU membership application. As expected, Spain doesn't recognise, but he expressed hope under the Belgian presidency that things may move along a bit. Do you think this is a possibility? Might we see some movement with Kosovo's membership bid?
Well, indeed, I think we know for Spain this is a delicate matter, because they have some regions who are looking for autonomy or even separating from Spain. For them, the Kosovo issue is sensitive. For us, this is less a problem, of course. And we know we are deeply concerned also about what is happening in Serbia and the Russian influence we see there, because I always state here, because I will deposit a resolution on the Kosovo-Serbia issues the coming week in Belgian Parliament, because there is a lack of attention for what is happening there. We should know very well, or be aware, that if we do not have a good dialogue and a clear, fair path for Western Balkan countries to access the EU, that you will actually push some of the Western Balkan countries to the east. And that would be really a pity. It is the remaining region that is not a part of EU. And those that are really pointed to the West and embrace our values, like Albania, like North Macedonia, you should give them a clear and fair path.
You mentioned something just now about a resolution about Kosovo and Serbia. Is that coming up?
Yes, we are drafting the resolution at this stage, and probably during the course of next week, we will deposit it here in Belgian Parliament. And the reason why I do this is because I noticed that in Western Europe and in my country, in Belgium, there is a very limited attention to what is happening there. We are in the middle of a war with Russia, who is an autocracy, not a democracy, and we should be very well aware that with other countries like China and Iran, actually they are challenging Western democracy, and as long as it was only Ukraine and Russia, the attention of the West was on helping Ukraine. Now there's the second conflict, Gaza-Israel, where the attention is divided. We know very well that it would be in favor of the agenda of Russia if there would be a military conflict or an aggressive conflict between Kosovo and Serbia. And I think Western Europeans underestimate what the agenda is. So that is why I'm depositing this resolution. I will ask attention for it, because I feel it somewhere coming, that with the tensions that there have been the last year, it is very well possible that this would explode at some point. And then we have 3 conflicts. Amongst one in our backyard, really in our neighboring backyard in the Western Balkans, that would really be a danger for the whole European Union and for the stability of the region.
Do you think the West, the EU, has been a bit soft on Serbia? I mean, we've seen the elections on the 17th of December. What happened after that? I mean, the students who were arrested, some still in custody. We have a situation where an opposition politician was apparently kidnapped and beaten. And I see Kosovo still under measures, but I see Serbia with nothing. And I cannot help but think that Brussels is perhaps, and I say Brussels as in the European Union, the Commission, is not taking it as seriously as they should be. Do you think a bit more Serbia, the threat, the issues need to be given a bit more attention?
Yeah, I think it's clear because as I follow Euronews, of course, and I follow you too on X, I saw the arrest and what happened with the opposition leader in Serbia. But for instance, here in Belgian media, there is hardly any. I have not seen any news report about it. Mm-hmm. So actually, I think in Western Europe that there's really a lack of attention for what's happening there. And actually, the same thing has happened in the past with Ukraine, because Russia occupied the Crimea, and then we thought it would be finished. Putin would stop there, but he didn't stop there. He continued. And after we had seen the attacks of 7th of October of Hamas in Israel, where we know very well that Iran played a role. Mm-hmm. So we know in favor of the agenda of these countries, it would be to destabilize the Western Balkans and Kosovo in particular, with the tensions in the north close to the Serbian border. So I think we really need to learn lessons from Ukraine, from Gaza, to not underestimate where the next conflict could arise, and that it is up to Europe to speak in one voice, because that is already one problem mostly, mm-hmm. and to have an attention here to guarantee safety and security in the region, or everybody will be the victim. Not only the Western Balkans, but also the EU itself. This is our backyard. We are in the same kitchen, the one in one side, and
we're surrounded by the EU as well. You know, we're surrounded by member states. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing this resolution, and thank you as well for that, because I mean, behind the scenes with my colleagues in Brussels and here, we appreciate the firm stances that Belgium has taken on a number of international issues, the Gaza-Israel war being one of them. And I look forward to seeing this resolution as well, because like you said, I don't think there is enough attention, and enough understanding of exactly what's going on and whose hands are involved in this situation. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure, and I'll send you a copy of the resolution when it's ready.
Wonderful, thank you. And next time I'm in Brussels, we'll go for an Albanian coffee.
To take you out then. Have a nice day.
Mirë pafshim.